But big breaking news coming in at the moment. The Tatas have won the Air India bid. That's the big one coming in. Tata Sons winning the Air India bid. We'll get you all the very latest as far as Air India divestment plans are concerned. It's a long due divestment plan, as you already know. But the Tata Sons were in the contention and they've gone ahead and won the Air India bid. There was a panel, perhaps they've got the nod of the panel. Their bid was, if I'm not mistaken, close to about 3,000 crore rupees higher than the reserve price set by the government, and about close to about 5,000 crore rupees more than the bid by the others. And at the moment, what we're picking up right now is that they've gone ahead and won the bid. It's interesting to note that they've gone ahead and won the Air India bid because it was the Tatas who had started this particular airline. And now they've gone ahead and won the Air India bid. So looks like the divestment plan for India, Air India, is going to be taking place very soon. There was a bid by Ajay Singh as well. There was a reserve price on this bid of 3,000 crore rupees, and now Tatas have gone ahead and won this particular bid. We'll get more details on this story. The government, the percentage of stake that the government is likely to divest in Air India, we'll get you that information as well. We'll also get you more nuances of this, but we did know earlier that Tatas had emerged as the top bidder for Air India, and this is not coming as much of a surprise that they've gone ahead and won the bid for the airline. But there was a panel which was led by Shah, and now what we are picking up at the moment is that it is the Tata Sons who have gone ahead and won the Air India bid. So Air India divestment plans probably will begin soon. The pipeline in terms of when and how it will begin, our reporters will join us for the very latest on this. Abha Bakaya is now joining us. Abha, we did know that the Tatas were the front runners in the fray. They had emerged the top bidders for the Air India announcement, and the bid was 3,000 crore rupees higher than the reserve price set by the government, and close to about 5,000 crore rupees more than the bid price set by Ajay Singh. And now the news coming in is that they've gone ahead and won the bid. What does the timeline and the pipeline look like as far as Air India divestment is concerned, Abha?
Okay, this is of course extremely significant, given that after a lot of delay, a lot of back and forth, we've been waiting to see the Air India divestment come through for years now. We know how strapped the carrier has been. It's also incredibly important that the Tatas have actually come through as the approved bidder for this particular divestment to go through. Remember, Tata Group and SpiceJet chairman Ajay Singh in his private capacity were the two contenders. The Tata Group has come out on top of this. It's bid 3,000 crore rupees higher than the reserve price. It was set by the government, and about 5,000 crores more than the bid by Singh. Remember, Tatas have always had very ambitious plans in the aviation space. They, of course, already have with Tata and a tie-up there with Super Airlines, and essentially this is going to give them huge inroads into creating a comprehensive and scalable play when it comes to the aviation sector. The news has pretty much just come in. We're waiting to get some insights from various stakeholders on exactly what's transpired and what the execution plan will look like now going forward. But given the kind of...
I guess, Abha, also the nod from the government perhaps would have come in for the Tatas, given the fact that they would have the capability as the Tata Sons, as a conglomerate, to pour in large amount of money required to revamp the national carrier, as opposed to SpiceJet as well, whose bid was anyway slightly lower.
Absolutely. The Tata Group, of course, come with a lot of strength. Remember, in the last few years, Chandra has done a major revamp of some of the pockets of the Tata Group of companies that, of course, have been, facing some amount of struggle. Tata Sons, as the whole co, coming out on top. They had huge debt, huge capacity to really drive this. There's also been recently news about the kind of There was speculation about some restructuring at the top of Tata Sons, which of course Chandra refuted and has said that there are no such plans. But yes, in terms of the kind of bank that they have, in terms of the kind of strength that they have to take this forward, remember they're unlisted in the aviation space. So this is going to be really interesting to see how they take this forward, how they execute. And just to remind our viewers, the reason that the bid has managed to go through this time is because they're not going to be taking on the debt. That is essential. That's what really pulled down Tata Group companies in the past. And this time as well, the reason why those bids have come in so strong is because they're not going to be having to take on the Air India debt. That's going to go into a special purpose.
And Abha, if you could just clarify for our viewers, and correct me if I'm wrong there, is 100% of Air India being divested?
I will have to just check on that, but this is definitely one where they are giving away complete ownership in terms of the complete structure. That is still a little bit more intricate because, as I said, the debt will be put into a special holding company, and the government, of course, will have an SPV that will take a look at restructuring that debt with investment companies and other stakeholders.
And what about the Tatas? Are they planning to also merge the airline businesses under one entity, given the fact that now this has also gone through with Air India?
Well, this is again going to be interesting, isn't it? Because we don't have news on that yet. But remember, India is such a huge market, and they have a full-service airline, and there's a lot of scope when it comes to a low-cost airline as well. Air India has both those capabilities, right? They've already been running it on both sides. So it'll be interesting to see which route the Tatas take on this, how they decide to vamp it. And it's also a really exciting time for the aviation sector because you've got Akasa Air, which is a completely low-cost player that's also planning to come in, with Aditya Ghosh's Indigo back on the board of that airline. It's just interesting to see that despite the difficulties in the last year with COVID and the hits that it's had on travel, industry players are gearing up because they're betting on this sector and the kind of demand and growth, particularly in a country like India, will take this forward. So despite the challenges of running it, crude oil prices, so on and so forth, there's certainly a lot of interest and a lot of potential for growth that's being seen here.
Absolutely. Also, if you could just tell us the debt outstanding as far as Air India is concerned for our viewers to get a perspective in terms of what the government stands to earn when the divestment takes place, and how does this benefit the government as far as the fiscal deficit targets are concerned?
So that's, of course, goes into thousands of crores. Chaiti, Air India has a cumulative outstanding debt, which was very, very intimidating to earlier bidders. This is going to help. It's also going to help largely in the overall divestment process. Remember, the government's been wanting to kick this off for a while. It comes across as a signal, right? The industry, for the economy, for investors, that they're serious about it. We needed a couple of big-ticket divestment issues to go through, whether it's Air India, whether they manage this with a BPCL, which will also be interesting because it's a listed player, and one of their golden sort of PSUs. If they manage to sort of kick off divestment on a couple of these key names, they're really setting the stage. Then they've got the ball rolling, and they're telling people, we mean business. This is then a very, very strong indicator to the ecosystem that the government is committed to its agenda on divestment and really getting things going on that front.
So then are we going to be on track in terms of the government said that they want to finish the divestment of Air India? For a while they've been speaking about it, but FY22 was a set target this time around.
Absolutely, and it definitely looks like it with the bid having gone through. Looking forward to getting the details of that bid and also what this will mean in terms of execution, how soon they'll take over. Remember, in terms of government dealings, sometimes there are intricacies and there might, just be like some execution process that might have to take place and, in terms of the handover. But the fact that it's gone through is significant in itself, and it shows that the government stepping on the pedal. And for the Tata groups as well, this is a big move. They have had ambitions in the aviation space for a very, very long time. And, remember the kind of strength that Air India comes with in terms of its capacity, in terms of its, berths, in terms of its, assets. So it comes with a lot of strength in the place, and with the right ownership and with the right player, driving it, this could actually be one of the biggest contenders now and put all its troubles behind it.
So did the successful bidder, when they were in contention, whether it was SpiceJet or Tata, have had to absorb any predetermined debt? Was that something that was decided or not?
So where the debt has all been put into a special purpose vehicle. And that's completely. This is the big difference that happened this time around with the bid. That's why it's actually gone through. That's why people were willing to go for it, because that's what was holding it back all this while. No one wanted to take on the kind of debt that Air India had. Now it's gone into the total debt is around 60,000 crore rupees, which is the figure that we have based on latest data from the Civil Aviation Ministry to Parliament. And bids for the airline were initially to be based on an equity value, and successful bidder had to absorb a debt of around 23,300 crores. But the government changed the bidding norm, and they sought bids based on enterprise value.
Okay.
So enterprise value is the market value of the entity,
okay.
And it takes into account debt and liabilities. But according to the new plan, the successful bidder doesn't have to absorb that predetermined debt. That goes
That's
into
very
an
interesting.
entity.
That's very interesting to know. So now, does the government plan to transfer the airline to the Tatas, and what's the timeline when the transfer would perhaps happen? I know the news is just broken in, but would you have any indication from the sources on this front?
I mean, it's a 76% stake that they'd asked for expressions of interest on earlier. This was the first time around. Now that they've changed the bids and they've actually put Air India on the block entirely. Timelines, we still don't know. The nod is only just coming. So we'll have to just wait and see for a formal announcement. Air India will come back to the Tata brand after 67 years, Chetty. So, there was some initial partnership, right, in those early years. And, like I said, 67 years later, they get back to aviation. They already have Vistara, which is an alliance with Singapore Air. And they raised their stake in Air Asia India to about 83% as well. So, they're really looking at a comprehensive play when it comes to aviation. And their bid was about 3,000 crores more than the reserve price that was set by the centre, 5,000 crores more than was set by Singh. Still waiting for official commentary. And but right now we know the bidding price in terms of timeline and execution. Still waiting for some more details.
Yes, absolutely. Before I go to Aishwarya, Abha, since you know this the best, I also want to get a perspective from you in terms of how this goes ahead and benefits the Tata Group, given the fact that they have already a Vistara which is running. They have high stake in Air Asia to the tune of 76% and now with Air India coming into their fold as well, how does this really benefit the Tatas with this kind of debt as well? Is this a value that comes to the table, which is not just about the money, not just about the profits, but it's just about the prestige of getting Air India?
It is prestige, of course. It starts us back with a bang. And, remember, it's 100% in Air India. It also includes the Air India Express. It includes 50% in Air India SAS, the airport services business as well. And Air India, people forget because we're also used to traveling, we have Indigo, of course. Jet is going through its own problems in terms of the two major airlines. Spice made a comeback. It's still, however, a smaller airline compared to those. Air India has been lagging because of all of its financial goals. But if you actually take a look at the kind of strength of the airline in terms of number of planes, the kind of cities or routes that it has access to, priority access to, in terms of timings of flights, airport parking berths, in terms of all of the ancillary plays that I just mentioned as well. It's a very, very powerful play. And about 4 months, you were asking me on timelines. I think it was speculated about 4 months is what it will take for ownership to completely be transferred. Still not an official statement. And those are just the kind of timelines that have been anticipated.
Right. Also, doesn't this come in somewhere full circle as far as the Tatas are concerned, getting Air India back, given the fact that Tatas were the one who started this particular airline back in the day?
Absolutely. Full circle. And it's sentimental. It's pride of place for Tatas. They've always wanted to be in aviation. And they've had these various attempts to get into it, after starting and then letting it go so early on. Over the years, they have tried to kind of, look at partnerships. Vistara came in, as I mentioned, AirAsia, they've just recently hiked their stake there as well. So, they have kind of been looking at getting into it. This is going to allow them now to sort of take control and go 100% into the sector, as opposed to as opposed to a player from the outside. The smaller player in the space, Vistara is largely seen as a niche player so far.
Yeah.
Now this will allow them to really go gung-ho into it.
This is the biggest story that is defining the news agenda. Abha, I request you to stay on with us. Please don't go anywhere. Aishwarya, you stand by as well. I'm compelled to take a very short commercial break, but there is nothing bigger than this at the moment.